Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time you're listening. It's your saltwater guide with another phenomenal podcast for you today. Today is sponsored by Okuma. I want to thank everybody over at Okuma for always being there to support your saltwater guide. I've been with the company for over 15 years. They make some phenomenal products, and we got some products that we're going to talk about today from Okuma. So check it out and kick back, relax. We're talking offshore. We're going to finish up from what we were talking about yesterday, but it's going to be a very interesting show. Everybody, all the feedback I got from the show yesterday was super positive. Thank you all very, very much. I know that without all of you, none of this is possible. So I do thank everybody for watching the show. And we can't do any of this without Okuma. So thank you very much, Okuma, for sponsoring the show and being a big part of your saltwater guide for a very, very long time. And I appreciate the heck out of it. So thank you very, very much, everybody. And those of you that want to learn about fishing offshore again, I got a block, man. Those of you that want to learn about fishing offshore, this is going to be a good one for you. Pay attention. Today we're talking now that we got all our electronics set up and everything, now we're going to talk about what we're going to do offshore, what we're going to do out there, how we're going to approach it, what we're going to do about it, all the great things that could happen offshore. So thank you very much for joining us, gang. This is going to be fun. I'm excited. So first of all, we talked a little bit yesterday about your electronics, your radar, your fish finder, and your GPS. One thing I didn't mention about the GPS, the track line. The track line is your friend, especially offshore. Maybe some of you guys can figure out how to fish most of this, but your track line is your friend offshore, and your track line is your friend when you're rock cod fishing. We talked about it a lot during the rockfish thing, but now we're offshore fishing, so we're going to talk more about what that track line does for you and how it makes it better. I came from old school. Back when I first started working on the boats, we didn't have any of this magical GPS stuff. We had Loran C just came into effect right about like a year and a half, 2 years before I got my captain's license. We started seeing a few of them going on some of the boats. I remember getting our first one on the Patricia and working for Mike Thompson. But why am I telling you about that? Because what we learned when we got these GPSs is you don't drift the way you thought you drifted. And the only way we would know that is with these track lines. It'll blow your mind when you get on a kelp patty and you think that kelp patty's headed down towards San Diego, and the next thing you know, you drifted on it for an hour or so and you headed out towards San Clemente Island. So that's why that track line is so important. Plus, when you start to locate fish like we talked about a little bit yesterday, you're offshore, you're marking fish at 150 or 200 feet down, and you push a mark on your GPS. Now you can see the track line you drove on. You see where you put that mark, and then you can come back and drive over that same line that you drove on, and you can drive back over those fish, and really they don't seem to move. Once they find the kind of water that they like, they don't do a lot of moving around. So once you start to locate them, that's where that track line comes into effect, and it's so advantageous to be tracking where you've been and what you've done. And then we always mark where we see the fish at. And then when we get a bite, I double mark it. So if we all of a sudden we're bit on the kite or we're bit on the Mad Mac or whatever, I'll hit it twice. Bam, bam, mark, mark. That way it's two X's right next to each other. That way I know we got bit right there. That's going to make that different than when I just put one mark and that's where I saw the fish. Double mark's going to be where I got bit. That's super important now for the rest of your day to start to put together the puzzle offshore. And now you're going, okay, I marked some fish right here. I got bit right here. I'm going to work this area and box it and troll around with my Mad Max or skip my rubber flying fish or float with my dead flyer. because we know now that this is the zone that the fish that want to bite are in. So every single thing matters whenever you're fishing, like we talk about all the time. Everything matters, but boy, oh boy, it really matters when you're offshore. If you can kind of figure out where you're at and where you're getting bit at, and all those things come together, it's a game changer. And why did I talk about not having this kind of stuff? And because we would thought we were going to the east and we were drifting to the west so many times. Even today, I'm blown away when I'm out on your boat and I'm fishing rockfish or we're fishing offshore, and I look at the GPS track line and I go, wow, we drifted the total opposite way of the wind blowing. That'll blow your mind when you see it on the tracker and you're like, huh, we drifted straight into the wind. Doesn't make any sense, but that's the way the current's pushing the kelp patty or pushing you when you're tuna fishing. But if you can mark the spots and then track them and then drive back across them, it's going to be gold for you. Then the biggest problem I see is people are scared to death of their electronics. Again, we're going to talk about that. Don't be afraid. At the end of the day, you don't want those track lines on there for tomorrow. You don't know. You do want the marks that you made, but the track lines are going to be so confusing when you have the screen full of track lines, old track lines, new track lines. I heard one guy tell me one day, oh, I always change the color every day. I'm like, there's no reason to have all those tracks on your GPS. You can't even see crap. You don't be afraid to erase them. The only reason people are afraid to erase them is because they're scared of the machine. Get all the old tracks off. Have a clean slate to work on every morning when you get out there. You'll know where you got bit yesterday, or you'll know where you got bit the last time you were out. But a lot of times, if I'm not going to fish again for a week or so, there's no reason to even save those spots where you got bit offshore, because there's nothing there, but there was some fish, but they're not going to be there tomorrow in a week and a half or 2 weeks. They're going to have swam away. So try to keep your chart plotter as clean as you can without all that distraction of all these tracks. When I get on some people's boats and I see all those tracks and I just shake my head, I've been doing this for a living for a very, very long time. I don't see any significant in it. It won't help. It doesn't help me. So I don't know. Maybe someone can explain to me why they leave all those tracks on there. I know the reason. A lot of guys will make up reasons, but it's because you're scared to death of the machine and you don't know how to erase them. So you're scared. You don't know what to do. I will take that fear away from you. All you got to do is you give me a call on the phone and I'll walk you through how to use everything on your boat. I'll be more than happy to help you out as much as I can. So now we got our tracker on. Now we got our fish finder set up for manual. Now we got everything's working together. Now we can start to actually participate in the act of offshore fishing because our machines are set up right. Now we find that kelp patty. Like we talked about, we don't sneak up on it, okay? Those of you that didn't watch yesterday's show, no more sneaking up on kelp patties. That's ridiculous. It's not going to help you. There's either the fish are on it or they're not on it. And kelp patties are not time of day, okay? The only reason that the kelp patty was time of day is because that's what time of the day you found it. If you would have found it in the morning, it would have bit. So when I hear people go, oh yeah, kelp patty, time of day. No, it's not. It's when you find it. If you found it early in the morning, then you'd be on the internet telling everybody, yeah, it was early morning bite. No, it wasn't. It was because you found that kelp patty early in the morning. And then I've had people call me and say, Dave, how can I find those kelp patties? Well, number one, stop looking for boats. Stop spending your precious time looking for groups of boats and groups of boats and groups of boats. I've seen so many people over the years drive right by kelp patties because everybody on the boat's looking over there. They see the Ocean Odyssey over there and they're trying to figure out if they're trolling or if they're stopped. And then everyone on the boat's like, hey, that's the Ocean Odyssey. Are they getting a bite? Are they getting a bite? Everybody starts to look real hard. Now you've taken everybody out of the looking for fish. And You took everybody, interweb, I don't know what that means, Kelly girl. You took everybody out of looking for fish now, and they're all looking at a boat. Stop fishing for boats. I know I talk about it all the time, but it's the curse when you're offshore. Your buddies will ruin it every time for you. So spend time looking for kelp patties. There's no magical formula. You have to look. You have to spend the time in the gyro stabilizing binoculars. You have to look. You have to look. You have to look. And you got to be looking the whole time. Okay? Now, Captain Dave, somebody asked me yesterday, are you going to talk about the dolphins? Absolutely. We're going to talk about catching yellowfin tuna on the dolphin pods because it's phenomenal. It works great. It doesn't work when there's a bunch of boats, but if you're out there by yourself and you got a pod of dolphins that have some tuna on it, it is magical. It is so much fun to start to dissect that pod of dolphins and figure out what part of the dolphin has the tuna on it. Not all the dolphins have tuna on them. So you need to understand that. If your fish finding apparatus, your photometer is set up proper, not on auto, but on manual, and you have it set at 150 or 200 feet for your bottom, that's as far deep as you want to look, and the top is 0 and the bottom is 200. You drive through that pod of dolphins, and on the fish finder, the dolphins are going to look like big, long streaks, if you will. Those are the dolphin. Underneath those streaks at 90 to 120 feet, you're going to see a bunch of boomerangs. Bigger the boomerangs, the bigger the fish. But you're going to see a bunch of boomerangs. What you want to do is you want to stop for a second and look at what part of the dolphin are the boomerangs on. And try to remember what part of them they're on. Okay? Because that's going to matter. That when you see some, I've got a million things I'm covering, I know. But if you see a bunch of dolphins jumping and splashing, and we call those guys the decoys. These dolphins, the air-breathing mammals, there's no porpoise in Mexico. There's no porpoise in California. There's a little pod of Dahl's porpoise that come down from Alaska during the winter time, and they're very, very small. Dahl's porpoise. That's the only porpoise that occurs in Southern California. What you're catching tuna on are common dolphins. That's what their name of them are. You could call them a Ferrari, you could call them a Lamborghini, or you could call them by their name. You could call them common dolphins. I hear so many people, oh, we're getting bit on the porpoise. No, you're not. There's no porpoise in Mexico or California. You're getting bit, and you're not getting bit on the dolphin either. You're getting bit on the bait that you're dropping in the water in front of the dolphins. You're getting bit on a hook. Nobody's ever caught a tuna on a dolphin. Flipper in Florida, that's a bottlenose dolphin. Inshore bottlenose dolphin. That's what Flipper was. He wasn't a porpoise. We have 6 or 7 different types of dolphin that live in Southern California. You have the big black ones with all the scratches on them. Those are called Rizo dolphins. Then you have the smaller ones that almost look like a common dolphin, except they don't have the bottlenose. They have like a helmet head. They have the same black and white coloring as the commons, but they have like a helmet head and a big sickle fin. Those are called Pacific white-sided dolphins. You have the inshore bottlenose dolphins. They're a little bit bigger than the Atlantic bottlenose that Flipper was. And you have the black dolphins. You have the killer whales, which are a type of dolphin. You have the bottlenose dolphin. You have the black dolphin. You have the spinner dolphins. You have the spotted dolphins. All of these occur in Mexico and Southern California, but there are no porpoise. Gang, don't make that mistake of getting on the radio. Oh, I'm getting bit on the porpoise. No, you're not. They're dolphin. I have a rough time with that one. That's really one of my pet peeves when you guys call them dolphin porpoise. I think it's pretty funny. But you're going to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. You're going to find that pod of dolphin. Now you're going to look around that pod of dolphin. What I would suggest is slow slow trolling around them at trolling around them at 6.5 knots, getting through the pods, trying to figure out what part of the pod has the fish on it, then remembering what part has the fish on it, and trying to get in front of that part that has the fish on it. And now I'm going to tell you a giant secret. This is what I used to do. This worked flawless for me on private boats. I did it for years and years and years with my members and my clients. Hey, Crow, good to hear you from Maine. Cool. Thanks for watching our show. When you're driving in to get in front of the pod of dolphins, you're going to want to fish this way. You're going to want to get a 4-ounce torpedo sinker. All right? The braid that comes off your reel and through your rod down to the sinker, you're going to tie to the top of the torpedo sinker your braided line. You're going to tie it with a Palomar knot because that won't come untied with braid, where the fisherman's knot will have a tendency to slip. Then coming off the bottom of the torpedo, you're going to tie your piece of GT4 fluorocarbon going down to your 2-aught or 4-aught hook. Then you're going to hook a sardine side to side through the clear spot on the end of his nose, and you're going to run through that dolphin pod. You're going to get out in front of it, and you're going to drop that 4-ounce sinker with the 4-ounce torpedo with the sardine hooked to it on the end of your line. You're going to just drop it off the back. Don't cast. Drop it in the water. The boat's driving forward 6.5 knots. Take it out of gear when you're marking the fish. Tell your friends to drop it. They're going to drop that 4-ounce torpedo sinker down. As it's sinking, if you see the dolphins jump over your line, get ready. You're going to get a bite because they just brought the tuna to you. You're going to be dropping that 4-ounce sinker, and all of a sudden it's going to take off like it was tied to the back of a car. And then you don't even have to set the hook. You just click it in gear and you're bit. And then you just start winding, and you're going to be stoked because you got a yellowfin tuna. That way works flawless because on the private boats, we don't have enough bait to drive in there and chum and then chase them again and do that. So what we learned a long time ago was using that 4-ounce torpedo sinker in line, tied right in line, nose hook sardine, and then drop it straight down. And you don't get bit the first time, don't panic. Wind them. If the dolphin don't swim over your line when you drop it down, they're not going to get a bite. So now you got to get back in front of that dolphin pod, and then you got to drop it again and drop it again. Sometimes I've dropped it 15 times before we get bit, but I'm marking fish every time. And then all of a sudden, we hooked that first fish on that sinker rig. All of a sudden, all the fish that are there decided they want to bite. It happened way more than once for me. Happened way more than 100 times for me. It happened quite often, and it works flawless. I know a couple of people are going to go, oh, shit, it's a commercial for the website. No, over on the website, though, and also on YouTube for free, if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see what this technique that I'm talking about on YouTube, Your Saltwater Guide, or if you're on the website, you can go right to the website and see how to rig this up. But your braided line comes down to your torpedo sinker, tied to the torpedo sinker on the top. Then the bottom, you got your fluorocarbon GT4 tied straight to your hook, 18 inches from the sinker. It's going to work flawless. You drop it down behind the boat. It's going to be dropping down underneath those, and it's going to work. It works flawless, Jeffrey. I guarantee you'll be blown away. And there's plenty of people on here, plenty of my members and clients that have done it with me, and it works pretty darn good, and we had a pretty darn good time doing it, and it will change what you catch, I promise. But it's not all the dolphin have tuna on them, so you got to figure out how to get to the part that has the tuna so that when you drop your line down, it's actually going to go to where the tuna are. Let me see something here. I think I got her.
Hey guys, this is John Bretza, Director of Product Development for Okuma Fishing Tackle. And what I have here is exciting, new, upgraded Elite 2-speed reels for all you tuna guys, bottom fish guys, anybody that wants something that's super durable, heavy duty, but you can fish lighter tackle, this is it. I refer to this as a mini Machaira. So what we've done with the Lehos updates is that we've taken the dual force drag system that's in the Machaira and we've mirrored that inside the new Lehos. The other thing that we've done is, based on popular demand that we've heard from you anglers out there, is that we added a thrust bearing. The same thrust bearing that you'll find in the Machaira is now in the Lehos. So when you fish at really heavy drag pressure, you're going to eliminate any handle binding, and you're going to have great free spool, and you're going to be able to really put the wood to these big tuna. The other thing that we've also done is that one of the keys to the Machaira drag system is a drag cam and the actual ramp and what it can actually achieve from free spool to strike, but more importantly, from strike to full when that fish is in the depth circle. The Machaira outperforms everything else, and what we did is we copied the Machaira drag cam and put that in the Lehos. So some great benefits there. The other thing, just like the previous Lehos, you have 17.4 grade stainless steel gearing. One advantage that you do have, even though I call it a mini Machaira, one advantage that it does have is that there's a cast control system. So you can adjust this to real heavy pressure. Say if you're up in Alaska fishing halibut, you got real heavy lead, you can slow that spool down, or you can do micro adjustments for, say, casting sardines or something like that on the West Coast. The new Lehos is going to be backed by a 3-year warranty. This product is now shipping and in the dealer's hands right now. If you want to find out more information on the Lehos, check it out on okumafishingusa.com.
Here it is, gang, right there. I got one. This was what I would use to fish that sinker rig I was talking about. This is an absolute machine. And when you hook these yellowfin on this thing, this handle is absolutely incredible. This big power handle and that gearing John was talking about. You're going to wind on that fish. You're not even going to believe the next thing you know, that fish is right below your feet. The torque on this and the gearing on these Alejos is absolutely incredible. So make sure you check these out. Get one of these. You're going to get to watch Kelly and I fishing with these up in Alaska for those big lingcod and those big halibut. But I'd be using this if I was on your boat fishing for that tuna. I'd be using this. This is a phenomenal rig. Great reel for doing that with, and that sinker rig's going to be flawless. So that's how to fish the yellowfin tuna on the Dolphin, gang, and it's a blast and it's fun. And if you have the kite rig, if you start seeing that tuna on the Dolphin and you have your kite rig with your rubber flying fish and you're going to skip that around, you'll be blown away by the size of the yellowfin tuna that are under that Dolphin that most people don't even ever get a chance to see because they don't skip the rubber flying fish through the Dolphin. You do that up in Southern California. I know it's hard when there's 85 boats, but if you find that pot of Dolphin by yourself and you can skip the rubber flying fish through there, hang on to your hats. It's harder to fish the dead flyer or the California flyer because of the fact that Dolphin is moving so quick. But that's where skipping the rubber flying fish comes in, because of the fact that you can go 8.5, 9 knots with that rubber flyer out the back off the side of the boat, and you can skip it right through that yellowfin. And hang on, baby. It's an incredible bite when that big giant yellowfin comes out of that pot of Dolphin and eats your rubber flying fish. It'll blow your mind. You'll think it was a dolphin until the rod bends over double and the line starts ripping off the spool. Then you're like, whoa, I guess that's not a dolphin. And we got Mo. So yellowfin tuna fishing on the Dolphin is a blast, but that yellowfin tuna will huddle up under the kelp patties. It'll also bite on the troll when you're trolling your cedar plugs around. You can catch that stuff open ocean. The yellowfin's way different than the bluefin. The only problem the last few years is they've been swimming around together, so the yellowfin started to pick up the bad habits of the bluefin, all show and no go. But I think this year is going to be a little bit different, because we have a big spread of yellowfin on the inside and we have a big spread of bluefin on the outside. I don't know how mixed together they are, but hopefully they haven't mixed up too much together, so it'll be easier for us to get those yellowfin to bite. And now we're going to be talking bluefin, because I gave you guys a little bit of information about how to fish the yellowfin on the Dolphin, which is gold. If you listen, paid attention, and you do what I said, you're going to be blown away, and you're going to be sending me lots of pictures of that sinker rig getting them. But now let's go bluefinning. Now, My favorite way is to skip the rubber flying fish through the pod, or excuse me, through the foamers or through the breezers or around the big meter marks that I'm getting at 100. When they get up to that 100 foot, I told you that's when they like to bite. But when you're fishing that rubber flying fish, we're doing 8.5 knots. We're trolling around at 8.5 knots, and we're keeping that thing. Prevailing wind is usually coming out of the northwest. So you're usually going to be driving either 180 degrees or 0 degrees. The tack in Southern California for that rubber flying fish is 180, and then turn into the wind and go forward for a little bit, and then turn and head straight 0, straight due north. And that'll always keep, unless it's southeast wind, but 99.9% of the time, the wind blows out of the northwest in Southern California. So you want to be making your tack that way. We have a whole series over on the website on how to fish the rubber flying fish underneath the kite, how to fish the dead flyers under the kite, how to do all that stuff. But I'm going to just give you some insight on how important the tack is when you're fishing for these big bluefin. And there are a lot of big bluefin in Southern California right now. A lot. We've been waiting and waiting for this, and now it's here. Established itself pretty good up and down the Southern California coastline, from the Channel Islands down to the Mexican border and out to Tanner, Cortez, San Clemente Island, in between Clemente and Catalina. It's pretty much settled down, and it's all over the place, and it's ready to eat. So now it's time to learn how to fly the kite. If you want to catch these bigger fish, they're getting them on the kite. I know that they're catching them on the Mad Mac. I know that. But I'll tell you what, trolling around at 15 knots all day, boy, you burn a phenomenal amount of fuel. But if you can learn how to fish that rubber flying fish, skip it around, once you start to locate the fish, or you start to see the foamers or stuff, then put a dead flying fish out underneath the kite or underneath the helium balloon. That works very, very well also. But the tack is the most important thing when you're trolling that rubber flying fish around. You want to make sure that it's out off the port side or the starboard side, and that little rubber flying fish is outside of your furthest wake. If it's inside of the wake and it's skipping, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get bit. But if you can get it outside of your furthest back wake, when that thing's skipping along and it goes through that school of fish and it's outside the wake, oh my gosh, the incredible bite. It is absolutely insane to see that big giant bluefin jump out of the water to eat that rubber flying fish. But it's all about the tack, and it's all about your track line, marking where you saw the fish at, and then tacking that rubber flying fish through the zone where you marked the fish, so that he goes skipping across that X that you put there. You don't want your boat to go over that, because that's where the fish are. You want your rubber flying fish to skip over that where you marked all those fish, because then they're going to come up and eat it. But if you run your boat over it, the fish aren't going to see the rubber flying fish. So it becomes a game of learning how to get your rubber flying fish to go over those marks that you made and go down your track line where you mark those fish. That's why the track line is so important. You can be a little bit inside of it or a little bit outside of it, so that the rubber flying fish is going down the track line that you marked the fish on. Then once you figure out how to do all that, it's going to start to become magical how often you're getting bit. But one thing I want you all to understand is you need to practice out in front of your harbor somewhere. The last thing you want to do is go out and try to figure out how to fly the kite when you're out there and you see a bunch of fish, because then it's just not the time to practice. We practiced, made the videos in front of Dana Point Harbor, a mile off the beach. You don't need to be out there in the middle of the ocean learning how to fly the kite. You can do it right outside the mouth of your harbor, gang. Get out there and practice that flying of the kite and skipping the rubber flying fish and identifying where it is. It's a giant puzzle to put together when you're out there flying the rubber flying fish and skipping it along. And you should have couple of guys. One guy just looking at the flying fish behind the boat in the binoculars. Another guy adjusting the line so that either the flying fish is skipping, he's not out of the water, and he's not under the water. He's skipping from wing to wing right on top of the water. And it's going to change as the wind moves, as the wind shifts, as the velocity of the wind goes up or the velocity of the wind goes down. You're going to be readjusting it all the time. It's not, I know a lot of people say, oh, you got to make it skip, 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 and then fly through the air. No. And the guy that wrote that article and said all that, he has no idea what he's talking about. Like most people that write stuff, they're not fishermen. They don't really know what they're talking about. That rubber flying fish needs to skip from wing to wing all the time, having contact with the water. You don't want that thing up in the air. No, contrary to whatever your girlfriend, sister's, aunt's, cousin told you, that's not how you do it. That flying fish is going to go from wing to wing, just like this, across the water. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you get out there and do it. But don't go practice with a bunch of people on the boat out there on the tuna grounds. Start practicing with you and your buddy around your harbor so you can start to understand how it reacts. And never, ever turn when you have your kite up in the air. Never turn downwind. Always, whenever you turn the boat, always turn into the wind. Don't turn and put your back into the wind, because that kite's going straight into the water and it's a giant mess. You always want to make your turns into the wind, then drive up your track line again, and turn again into the wind and drive back down your track line. And when we were talking about the tack in the very beginning, people were like, what are you talking about, Dave? It's about the direction the boat is headed so that it kicks the flying fish as far off the side of the boat as you can. As far out off the side of the boat as you can is what you want to do. Well, Jeffrey, your 17-footer could make it out there. If it's like last year or the year before when that fish was inside of 10 miles, your boat could easily fish out there. There's going to be fish close. There's going to be fish far. There's going to be plenty of stuff to do. So you may get a chance to do it on your aluminum boat. I don't know, but all I can tell you is it's all about the tack. It's all about practice, and you do not want to practice out on the ocean on your day when it's time to catch. If you watch our videos on how to fly the kite, I make it super simple. I don't use a lot of words that you don't understand. I show you exactly how easy it is. And believe me, if I'm doing it, it can't be that hard. And we do it down here in Cabo. We did it up there in Southern California. We did it at a very high level, and it worked very, very well. And you guys will be just as successful if you follow the simple techniques of how to fly the kite, how to put the helium in the balloon, how to tie the balloon to the kite. Everything matters. How to put the rubber band on the ring so that you don't twist your line up. Every single thing matters. And we could talk about technique all day long, or you can just go watch all the videos we have for you over on our website, yoursaltwaterguide.com. But gang, don't go skipping the rubber flying fish around when you're not marking any fish, because you can't cover any area. Once you get into a zone and you start seeing fish in the gyros, or you start marking fish on your photometer, that's when you want to deploy the kite. And so you're tacking around, and you're got a very good chance of getting one of those big bluefin when you figured out where they are. I see a lot of guys go out and fly the kite around and they never mark the fish. It's not going to work like that. You got to get into the zone where the fish are. Get in your gyro stabilizing binoculars, start hunting, start looking. When you identify turn birds or foamers or breezers, a breezer is when the fish are on the surface traveling. They're not eating yet. They're looking for food, and they're all up on the top, and they're swimming a couple hundred fish at a time, and it makes the water ripple on the surface, and it looks like the breeze is blowing in one little spot. and that'll be a couple 100, 200-pound bluefin. And the way they swim through the water, it makes a ripple effect on the water. That's why we call it a breezer, because it looks like the wind is blowing. It's breezing across the water. That's what a breezer looks like. And I know I posted a video from Carl the other day showing what we call in Southern California foamers. Now, I don't know when we started calling them foamers. I was in junior high when I started working on the boats, and they called them foamers then. So I don't know when they started calling them foamers, but I was told by, I don't know, probably 800 people that it's not a foamer, it's a boil. I'm old school. I'm sorry. I'm only going to tell you what professional fishermen have called it for 100 years. We call it foamers. When the ocean is frothy, that is a foamer of bluefin. When it's a breezer, it's just barely making a ripple effect on the water. When there's 100 fish all swimming in one direction, it makes that ripple effect on the water. Another thing we're going to see out there is what we call shiners. They're not actually breaking the surface of the water, or they're not actually making the surface of the water breeze, but they're all swimming and they keep twitching on each other. I think that they're mating, or they're trying to scrape fish lice off of each other, but they keep twitching on each other. And when they turn like that, it exposes their belly, and you can see the white on the water. That's called shiners. They're shining. They're that white of their belly. They're showing it to you, so they're shining. And then, so you got foamers, you got breezers, you got shiners, and another thing we call puddlers. That's where the fish are just barely breaking the surface of the water. They're probably eating little micro baits, and there's not a lot of them. So they're just making a little ring on the water. It looks like, we call them puddlers because it looks like there's little puddles of water, and they're making rings in it. So you got puddlers, you got shiners, you got breezers, you got foamers. What else? What else can we see out there? Tailors. I've seen that big bluefin tail before. What do you mean, Dave? Where they're all swimming down swell and their little tails are out of the water. They look just like a bunch of marlin when they're doing that. Marlin love to tail in the swell. They love to surf the waves, and their tail sticking out of the water as they're surfing. The same thing with the bluefin. When they're big like that, they like to surf the waves, and they'll be tailing down swell, and you'll be in the gyros, and you'll see 10 or 12 tails sticking out of the water on a wave. It just blows your mind. You're like, oh my gosh. And that's all a bunch of bluefin tailing. So everything matters. Maters. Yeah, they're mating. Absolutely, Devin. But you got to remember, everything matters. It's all about paying attention to what's going on out there on the water and looking. And like Al said yesterday, a flat spot on the water. If there's a bunch of breeze and then there's a slick spot, that's a good place to go over and look around and with your fish finder and see if you can meter anything. Because what we've learned over the years is that's an oil slick on the water caused by the tuna eating all the anchovies or all the sardines that were there. They're all full of oil. So when they're eating them, all that oil is getting dispersed, and it makes the water a little slick. We call it a flat spot. You go over there, you look around that flat spot, there's a good chance you're going to find some fish over there. And I've had people on the boat with me for a long time that couldn't see a breezer to save their ass, even when we were driving right into the middle of it, and I'm telling them to cast at the breezer, and they're like, we don't even know what that is. And I'll run out of the wheelhouse, run downstairs, cast my bait right into the middle of the breezer and get bit. You got to look at the breezer when they're breezing, when they're all swimming in one direction, they're going in a direction. You got to bring the boat around and get in front of the way they're headed and stop. Don't keep driving. They're going to swim right to you. Then cast right in front of them. Cast at their faces. If you start to see the breezer, or you start to see the shiner, or you start to see the foamer, or you start to see the puddlers, they're always going to be moving in a direction. They're always going to be headed somewhere. They're not just sitting there. The breezer, the foamer, everything's moving in a direction because they're chasing the bait or they're looking for food. So you want to figure out what is that? What am I looking at here? Oh, it's a breezer. Okay, which way are they headed? They're headed towards the west. So I need to bring my whole boat around and get out in front of them and stop and let them swim to me. And when they get in casting distance, just lob your sardine in the middle of them, or you throw your mackerel in the middle of them, or your surface iron, or your live deception flash lure, whatever it is, cast it in front of them. Then you got a chance to get them to eat it. If you cast behind them, not only do they not eat with their butt, but when that bait or that lure or whatever it is hits behind them, it scares them and they scatter. Because why? Remember, they're fish. The smartest fish in the ocean is dumber than the smartest mouse. So when your bait lands behind them, they freak out because they think it's something trying to eat them. So they don't want to die. So if you cast your bait behind them, they're like, oh, something's trying to eat us. They haul ass. They're not going to eat. If you cast their bait in front of them, that feels natural for them because they thought that the whole group of them, when that bait jumped out of the water, made that splash, in their mind, they think they scared it. They don't know that you just casted it. So that's why when you're offshore, you need to slow down and start to figure out what you're looking at and start to figure out which way the game is moving. It's always going to be moving in a direction. So you got to slow it down. Now, if you're combat fishing with 10 or 12 other boats, you just got to get in and take your shot whenever you can. You're not going to really get to work a school. That's why I talk about how important it is to get away from all the goddamn boats and get your own area. You want to be able to go out there and search your own area so that when you find the breezer or you find the puddlers or you find the shiners or you find the foamer, you can work on it. But if you start out your day with a bunch of boats around you, there's a really good chance you're not going to catch anything. And so many of you make this excuse or make this mistake and you call me up afterwards and then we start to dissect what you did wrong. And 99.9% of the time is because you didn't get away from all the boats and go find your own fish. Last year, Justin, day in and day out, he was out there on his own fish. No other boats around. That's why he was able to work his Mad Max and do all the cool things that he was able to do and put out all those great trips because of the fact that he wasn't fighting a bunch of other boats. I don't know the allure of other boats, but there is a giant magnet drawing you all towards the other boats for some reason. And I know a lot of my members tell me it's because of their friends. When their friends get on the boat, they don't listen. They've never listened to me. They just want to. Their sisters, brothers, aunts, cousins, plumber told them, you get out there, you find the San Diego, and you follow him around all day, and you just pick up his scraps. That's not why you bought your boat. That's not why you're not going on the party boat. You're not going on the party boat because you don't want to fish with a bunch of people. So why would you follow boats around? It's never going to do you any good. Find your own area and start to use these tactics that I'm talking about. And we talked about this probably 2 months ago or whatever, when I was telling you guys to practice casting, because here comes the offshore and it's all going to be about your cast ability. Now, when you stop out in front of the breezer or the foamer or the shiners or the puddlers and you can cast 30, 40, 50 yards, you're going to get bit. If you can cast your bait or your lure in front of those fish and constantly land in front of them, not, oh, I can cast. Yeah, but you have no accuracy. So you didn't practice what I talked about. Dave, the days of practicing now to cast, they're pretty much gone. We're in the season now. Remember I told you all to practice before the season got here? This is the season. August, September, October are going to be insane in Southern California. And a lot of you are going to wish you practiced. You're going to wish that you practiced. But you absolutely, I hope you practice. Absolutely, I hope you can get a chance to get out there and see all these different things I'm talking about. just because there's 8 or 9 boats in one zone doesn't mean that's the only place there's fish. Get away from them. Get 4 or 5 miles away from them and look around for more fish and get away from all the boats. And we talked about that yesterday. Your radio is not your friend. And I know one day somebody's sisters, brothers, aunt, cousin called you up and told you, and it was real dope. I'm going to help you out right now. All right? We don't talk on the VHF radio anymore. None of the big yachts, none of the sport boats. Nobody talks on the VHF radio anymore. You're not going to accidentally hear some information coming out of the VHF radio. Everybody's using this now. A lot of the boats have Starlink, or the islands all have towers on them now. Catalina, San Clemente Island, the Channel Islands. There's plenty of service now to be had. Everybody's using their telephone. So if you're using your radio to try to find fish, that is going to get you in trouble every single time. Because a guy like Devo hanging out at his house, he's bored, had a couple sodas, sitting on the back of his boat at the dock, at his house, in the storage yard at his house with his VHF radio on, and he's giving you guys GPS numbers to the dump or to the bank or to Catalina, to the zip line, all those different things. You do not want to listen to the radio. It's not going to help you, gang. It won't. If you're going to go out there and think, oh, I'll just get out there and find out what's going on, I'll listen to the radio. I see so many members that have been members for a long time that tell me, yeah, Captain David was a little slow out there. And I'm like, how do you know it was slow? Oh, because the guys on the radio were all telling us how slow it was. There is so many videos on our website that tell you the radio is not your friend. So many videos. I don't understand why you all still turn on the radio and use it. Unless you talked to Justin and Pablo before you left, or Al, and you guys are working together on channel 7 or channel 13. You're working together with people you know. And we'll on the game plan from now on, we're going to, like we did last year and the year before and the year before, we'll have a designated channel for us to work on. Normally it's channel VHF radio channel 7. But a lot of times it's the telephone. And you can call Justin or Pablo or Al on the phone and it'll work. Hey, are we promoting, Michael? Gang, check it out. History of Sport Fishing, gang. Michael Folks will be with us on Friday, but tomorrow morning, you guys can watch the first episode of the History of Sport Fishing. We've got a phenomenal QR code right here. We're going to let you guys pre-order this. You're going to get to watch it tomorrow morning. Elliot's been a big part of helping Michael put this together. This has been a labor of love for Michael. For 9 years, he's built this phenomenal docu-series all about the history of sport fishing. We got a little sizzle reel we can show him, Elliot. Gang, you want to pre-order this? You want to watch it tomorrow morning with Kelly Girl and I? It's going to be incredible. You can stream it live on your computer or on your television at home. You're going to grab this QR code at the end of this little sizzle reel we're trying to show you. And Bill Barney's down at Cedros Island. He'll be back next Wednesday, but he'll have all kinds of reports. But the History of Sport Fishing, gang, there it is. There's the QR code. Scan that QR code right now. Pre-order this thing. We get to watch it starting tomorrow morning, right, Elliot? You can throw up on the private chat what time it's going to be available. But gang, super exciting. This is what it's all about for us. Yes, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It'll be available for you guys. And I want you guys to watch this because Michael's going to be on the show on Friday. Here, watch it. Go ahead.
Excitement of success and the inspiration that will drive the fishermen out in the first light of tomorrow with the eternal hope that it will be their day for the king of fish. And on every boat, fishermen wait excitedly for the first strikes of the day.
It's all about the bite. It's putting on the right bait, getting bit, setting the hook, or getting that first bend out of the rod.
It's about the initial hookup.
It's one of the most exciting moments anybody can have ever.
When you see something that size, you freak out.
You strip it, strip it.
He's bigger than you.
It's 150 pounds.
Giant-eyed,
Overgrown minnow.
they could have come from a spacecraft.
You get tight with it.
You've got a hold of a huge creature.
Something in your heart stops.
You know,
I love it.
you can see them kind of looking at it,
Freaking aliens.
but that eye gets to it.
In the initial surge of the fish,
You know,
you really can't explain it.
lines clearing, jumping everywhere.
The line wraps around the rod and breaks off, and you're done in half a
It
second.
does something to your heart, your brain, everything. Everything stops.
This is the history of sport fishing. Chapter 2, From Survival to Sport.
Gang, I can't wait for this to come out tomorrow morning. Kelly and I already pre-ordered it. We're ready. We're going to be watching it tomorrow morning. Gang, it'd be so fun if a bunch of you grabbed this QR code and pre-ordered it and you guys watch it and you're all ready for Friday when Michael's on the show. And you're going to see Series 1 tomorrow. Michael will be on the show on Friday. You guys can ask him any questions you want. We're going to interact with everybody. Elliot's going to produce a phenomenal show. Michael's going to tell you what it took. Like I said, this was a 10-year love affair. It went, and he's produced one of the most incredible docuseries about fishing that you've ever seen, with some unbelievable footage you guys have never seen ever before. This thing's going to pull at your heartstrings. Those of you that have been in the industry for a long time, or any of you that just take your kids fishing, you're going to learn so much about the industry that we all love so much. And this one's about us. This one is definitely about us and how sport fishing has evolved and gone to where it's at today and all the great things. It is absolutely incredible the amount of volume of videos that Michael went through to make this. I was lucky enough to see a few parts of it over the last couple of years. Whenever I would see Michael, he'd go, look at this. I want to show you this that I stitched together. I want to show you that. Every single time I watched it, a little piece here and a little piece there, the hair on my arms and the back of my neck would stand up because it means so much to me. It is the history of my life and my father's life and what we've done in our industry. And it is so cool to finally have a movie that depicts our industry and where it came from and where it's at today. And like Frank Lepresti said, a lot of those guys. Yeah, one more clip. Let's show it. Let's show them that cool clips. I just can't believe that there's a movie out there about us. It's so cool. So we got all kinds of cool stuff to show you. We got another clip. Here it comes. Check this out.
I remember the very first time I went fishing. I was 3 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't know what my dad did. I just know he left for work every day. When he came home at night, he was covered in salt and scales, fish scales, and I didn't even know what a fish scale was, but he would tell me what they were. They were all over his shirt, his pants, his belt. I remember chewing on his belt when I was a baby because it had salt on it, and it felt good in my mouth when I was teething. I swear, I remember all this like it was yesterday. I know it's hard to think that you remember this stuff when you're a little kid, but I do. 3 years old, sitting on the counter. We're going on the afternoon trip with my dad. And my mom putting my shoes on while I'm sitting on the counter telling me we're going fishing with my dad. He was running the Some Fun off the pier, and the boat was tying up to the pier, and I was sitting on the rail with my mom holding me. And she's saying, "That's your dad." And him coming out on the back of the boat, and him waving at me and saying, "Hi, David." Oh, I had no idea this was going to hit me this hard. But yeah, I'm 60 years old, and I remember it like it was right now. And then we went to go down the ramp and get on the boat. It was incredible, and that was it. I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to fish.
When man first fished for sport is purely speculative, but certainly predates any written history.
Wow, Elliot, thanks. I didn't see that coming. Oh, that was, Michael and I did that right. That's okay. I love to feel, and that definitely makes me feel. Michael and I filmed that part of it right after my father passed away, so. That's chapter 1. That's how the show starts, gang. Sorry. What an incredible journey this 12-part series is going to be, gang. And that's the very beginning, and it hits you hard. And I'm excited to see it tomorrow morning. I can't wait. Grab the QR code. That's what this movie's going to be like. The whole movie is going to be like what you just saw. That is the very first scene on the very first series. It starts out with me talking like that. If that doesn't grab your heartstrings and make you understand what fishing means to me, then you probably don't have a pulse. But I'm super excited that I got to be a part of this, and I'm super excited that Michael's finally getting to launch this movie, because this is a giant labor of love for him. He's been in the industry his whole life, just like me. So we're both super excited about this, gang. Don't hesitate. Grab the QR code right now. It's right there on the screen. It's free to grab it. Make your own decision afterwards. You can watch part 1 tomorrow morning for $9. Kelly and I already pre-ordered it. We're going to be watching it while we're having our coffee tomorrow morning. And plus, we want to watch and we want to know what the hell's going on so we can have some real stuff to talk to Michael about, because then part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is coming. And we got Michael on the show on Friday. So do yourselves a favor. You don't need to watch some rerun of I Love Lucy. Let's watch this tomorrow morning. Let's all watch this together. Let's have a watch party, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning when it comes out. Kelly Girl and I will be watching it. Those of you on the East Coast, this is for everyone. There are parts of this you won't even believe. The largemouth bass part of this, you're not going to believe the guys that Michael got to talk on this movie. You won't believe the big names in the industry, the IGFA Hall of Fame captains, all the different people you're going to see. You will not believe how great this movie is going to be. I can't say it enough, how great this is. For every aspect of fishing, you're going to learn how it all started, where it all came from. Don't miss out on this. Grab the QR code, for goodness sakes. Elliot, throw it back up there one more time. We'll show you guys that QR code. And yeah, grab that right now. We're done with the shows over, folks. Kelly Girl and I will talk a little bit more about offshore fishing tomorrow when we got her on the show. She'll tell you how exciting it is to chase those dolphin around. She got to do it with me back in the day. But don't miss out on tomorrow. 6 o'clock in the morning. You want to be the first kids on your block to watch this movie. It's going to be all that in a bag of chips. I'm super excited about it. And thank you for showing that part, Elliot. That is a very, very emotional scene for me, for sure. And hopefully you guys get as much out of this that I'm going to get. It's going to be absolutely. And then, yeah, right after tomorrow morning, Justin Botrell's going to be live out on the water tomorrow. He's offshore fishing. He's going looking for that bluefin. So we're going to get to watch live bluefin tuna or yellowfin or dorado or whatever he finds on offshore tomorrow. He's going out there. Weather looks pretty decent. It looks like 10, 11 knots all day tomorrow offshore. So we're going to have a great time watching Justin fishing offshore tomorrow. We'll have Kelly Girl on the show tomorrow. We'll be definitely talking about, if you guys want to be a part of the conversation tomorrow about this docu-series that Michael's just launching, the history of sport fishing, grab the QR code, purchase your episode tomorrow morning, watch it. We're going to be watching it 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's when it's available. It'll be being watched at the Hansen household. You guys watch it too, so we all have something to talk about on the show tomorrow. I want to hear what you guys think of part 1 of a 12-part docuseries, the history of sport fishing. It's going to be incredible. Grab the QR code, get on there and get it, gang. A movie about us. Woo! All of us that love to fish. Everybody's going to get something out of this movie, I promise you. If you love to fish, you're going to love the movie. Gang, thank you very much for watching today. I hope you learned a little bit more about this offshore fishery and what's going to happen and how you can be successful when you go. Remember, everything we talk about on our podcast every day, it's all available on my website, broken down into a very easy, watchable series over there. We have 580 how-to videos on the website. Gang, it's just, without all of you, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I promise you that. It takes all of you listeners, all of my sponsors, all of the things come together to make this what it is. And if you knew who I was in the old days, to see where we're sitting at right now, it's absolutely incredible. But none of this is possible without all of you. So thank you very much for getting me. Those of you that get me, I appreciate you all so much. And then those of you that don't get me, we really appreciate you because you help drive the algorithm and get my videos in front of more people. We all get a kick out of the haters. We love them. We love all the fans, haters and non-haters. Those of us that like me love reading all the hate. Kelly can't read it. It drives her crazy. She wants to get in there and fight with you guys, but I absolutely adore you, haters. You make my day. You make it easy for me to live on this planet. So thank all the haters for being there for me. But really, my fans, I'm blown away, gang, how much you guys all have my back every day. When all these booger eaters make all these comments, y'all jump in there. I appreciate the hell out of all of you. Thank you all so, so much. If it wasn't for all you, all these companies wouldn't be sponsoring Captain Dave. So I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Let's have fun watching the movie tomorrow. Let's have a great show tomorrow at noon with Kelly Girl and I. We're going to be talking about Michael's movie. And if you guys don't watch it in the morning tomorrow, you guys you're going to be bummed because you're going to hear all about it at the noon live show. And then don't forget, Justin will be live tomorrow. We'll explain to you what he's doing offshore. You get to watch. This is the one you've been waiting for. Besides that, the lobster ones, Justin offshore fishing bluefin. Stand up, pay attention. It's going to be great. Everybody, thank you for watching our show today. Thanks for being a part of your saltwater guide. I appreciate all of you. And I'll see you tomorrow morning around 12. No, I'll see you early in the morning because we're going to do that live show with Justin. So